So AI is everywhere. We're seeing it in news article headings for the pictures. We're seeing it replace headshots. We're even seeing it win photo competitions.
And I think things are only going to get worse. But I've been through this. I've lost careers thanks to changes in tech. And I think I can help people navigate a kind of dark future that's filled with change and come out the other end, because there is a future for photographers, but you should be prepared for the changes that are coming.
This is the Picture This Photography podcast, and today we're not just talking about AI, we're talking about how you can beat it, what you can do to future-proof yourself as a photographer, and we're also going to give you an AI quiz to see if you can tell the difference.
See if you can beat our scores.
Yeah, but first we want to thank our sponsor, Squarespace. If you want your own website, portfolio, store, you can make it happen at Squarespace, and it's super fast and easy. Go to squarespace.com/Chelsea and use the coupon code Chelsea to get 10% off. I love dragging and dropping new pictures into my portfolio.
It's one of the things that motivates me to go out and take pictures.
It gamifies the process. It's fun, so check it out. Thanks, Squarespace.
First, let's talk a little bit about where AI is today. We've already seen fashion photographers lose their jobs because now you can generate a model in any outfit and you skip the whole complicated process. In stock photography, AI images are outselling real photos in some situations, and that's bound to get worse. On my own Instagram, I put up real pictures next to AI pictures, and people like the AI pictures more. It was better than me. And real astrophotography is already being displaced by AI in smartphones that's just producing perfect but fake images, and these trends are bound to continue.
Yeah, you've probably noticed, I mean, it's not perfect, but it is tricking people because we're so inundated with photos and information that we're scrolling at a speed where you're not stopping to very closely examine every single picture you're looking at.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's mostly there. It's mostly at the point. So Tony and I took this AI quiz, and we wanted to see if we could tell AI created art versus real art, human-created art.
You can take the quiz too. Go to this link, sdp.io/AI quiz, and see what your scores are versus ours.
You basically look at pictures like this one, we'll show you side by side, and you have to tell the difference between a real photo and an AI-generated photo. Tony and I almost got the same exact scores, except that in the photo category, I got 6 out of 7 right, and Tony, you got 4 out of 7 right.
Yeah, you said you zoomed in, and I didn't scrutinize it that closely, but I am kind of embarrassed because I did a whole video on how to detect AI photos. But I'm also pessimistic because in the course of researching that, I realized there were so many situations where it was literally impossible to detect AI photos.
Yeah, and I was looking for things that were a little more advanced, like the bokeh, if it dropped off in an appropriate way, or consistent lighting, consistent catch lights, and I did have to zoom in and examine it. Had I just been scrolling, I don't think I would have been able to tell most of them. And
I only got 4 out of 7. And if I got half right, that would have been statistically average, 3.5. So I basically could not tell the difference.
That's shameful for you, Tony. Well, I mean, we do this for a living and we did not ace the test. But there was also an instance where there was a photography competition and someone entered this AI photo and it won. And so even judges who are professionally looking at photos all of the time and trying to discern one from the other did not notice some of the strange things, like an extra hand, which could just be seen as a weird artistic choice. It is kind of cool.
And sort of mangled up unhuman fingers, but it's actually evidence of how big of an impact AI will have because they were able to overlook these things. People don't scrutinize things. We just sort of take it for granted, especially on your smartphone. You're just scrolling through Instagram. You're not spending a lot of time on one picture. It'll just be AI or not, and you won't detect it.
Yeah, I'm curious how y'all do. So when you take that quiz, leave your score down below. I want to know.
Okay, I want to get a little bit dark talking about the future, but also my own past. And then after I go through the dark phase, I'm going to show people how to sort of emerge from it and how I emerged from it.
Okay.
You know, this is really my 4th big career. And the first 3 were pretty much destroyed by changes in technology. Like we were stock photographers for a while. And then micro stock popped up and suddenly it was cheapened to the point where we simply could not make a living at it.
Right.
I was writing computer books for the longest time. And then the internet that I helped build suddenly meant everybody could just put free how-to content on the internet. And people stopped buying the books. They just started Googling it. And that put me out of a career. Saddle makers used to be very successful in the area of horses, right? And then cars came along and almost all saddle makers lost their jobs because people didn't need as many saddles. But some people continue to make saddles even today. And that is the case for photographers. Some of us will emerge out the other side, but not all of us will. You might be intimidated by AI and where it is today, but I try to look forward a couple of years. And I see it changing things pretty drastically. I just recorded a video review of a tool for portrait photographers where you input a bunch of pictures of somebody and then you can generate whatever portraits of that person you want. So you can take a bunch of cell phone snapshots and then make their senior photo, their LinkedIn professional photo. You could make glamour shots, you could make images of them working out at the gym. That is going to become very common once the big companies like Apple, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, Google launch their own AI. Right now, all AI is pretty much small companies. Once the big tech companies launch, it's going to change everything. They already have all of your photos.
That's what scares me about like Facebook having all these photos of people and their children and their families. You don't even have to submit your own photos on the internet. Your aunt's doing it for you, you know?
I already know what the pitch is going to be. They're going to allow you to make a family photo that includes your great-grandfather who's passed.
Yeah.
Or includes all of the pets that you've lost over the years. They're going to make these dream images come true, but they're also going to be displacing so many existing portrait photographers. Senior photos are largely going to become a thing of the past. You're not going to need professional headshots.
I don't want that, though. This is where I have a hard time seeing like what's going to take off, because for me, when I took senior portraits of our daughter Madeline, I wanted to see her. I didn't even edit them that heavily. I wanted to look back and remember her as she actually is. And so, I mean, I understand that there might be a future where people will just want some fake idealized version of life, but I don't.
But it's faster and it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Just like the car was compared to the horse. And that will win out most of the time. And not everybody's going to give up, but you just need, if 90% of the people give up, that means a lot of photographers are going to be put out of work, right? So that's what we're kind of trying to address. Not 100%, but it's enough that it's going to squeeze. It's going to squeeze us.
Well, let's take that analogy of the horse farther, because we do have a hopeful view on this of how to future-proof yourself. And I am one of those people that likes things that are real. And I did have a horse, and I had multiple saddles. And I am going to be the type of person that buys photos. So we have some ideas for how to keep yourself relevant as a photographer, how to find the market of people like me, the saddle buyers, and how to keep customers that will want more than just photography. They'll want a whole experience, and they'll have the services that you have to offer them.
Chelsea, what's your favorite picture? Name a picture.
I like the Gordon Parks picture of the little boy with the bug on the string on his forehead. Mm-hmm. I love that picture.
I noticed you didn't just describe the picture, you described the photographer. And I know you have a book by Gordon Parks.
I do. I love Gordon Parks.
And you've done an entire podcast on Gordon Parks.
Yeah.
The point I want to make is people, especially photography buyers, don't connect to an image. They connect to the photographer. And if you want to be successful, you need to allow people to connect to you. And you do that by telling your own story. You do that by talking about what you go through to create an image, your own personal sacrifice. You talk about where you came from, what your struggles were. Did you get into photography because you were recovering from addiction or a death in the family? Everybody is motivated by something, but most people aren't comfortable sharing that. So many photographers don't want to be in front of the camera. They're shy. You have to kind of overcome that if you're going to achieve success.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes we don't take an objective view of ourselves and realize that our story is unique, and that there are people who will connect to you. There are people who will empathize and find you interesting and find you inspiring. You just have to open up enough to let them know who you are. So when you are sharing your work, you should have a place where you're putting your about section. You should have branding. You should be telling people about your journey, what made you start, milestones that you hit, setbacks that happened, achievements that you made. Let them in on who you are as a photographer.
But I talked to so many people who were shy about that. But let me tell you what, Ansel Adams was not shy. We think of him as being in solitude on Yosemite for 6 months, waiting for the clouds to perfectly line up, but he was always out doing interviews, writing books. He made himself a public figure. And that's why you got the Ansel Adams calendar and not just the mountain landscape calendar, right?
Well, maybe you did if you went to the dollar store and got the budget calendar. You right? But
how do you tell your own story?
You, of course, have to put yourself out there and let people know about it, but a great way to do that is to have your own website. And I know we're always plugging Squarespace. It's because we genuinely like it.
Right.
So make sure when you make your own Squarespace, you have an about page with a picture of yourself and with your story, with your branding, with recognizable colors, logos, everything people need to remember you and your story. Because when they hire you, it's not just going to be for your pictures. It's because they're going to like you as a person.
Because AI can't do that.
No.
AI has no interesting story. It has no struggle that it overcame. It has no mission, some greater objective, but you do. But if you keep that a secret, it's not the advantage that it should be.
So if you want to share your story, you can use a Squarespace website, and it's super easy to use. Truly, you can make one in 10 minutes by dragging and dropping your pictures. There's just the forms there. I went in and I typed everything out. You know, you don't have to try to figure out the layout because they do it all for you. So it's easy and it's stress-free, and also it's free for 14 days. So you can try it. You don't even have to take my word for it. You're going to like it. But once you try it and you want to buy it, use the coupon code Chelsea to get 10% off and go to squarespace.com/Chelsea. All right, so what's our next tip? To be more interesting.
Well, maybe instead of just driving up to a waterfall and hopping out of your car and snapping a picture, maybe camp there and tell the story of your camping. Like, people like to see that you are committed to it. They like to see a little bit of a bigger personality. So let yourself come out, share yourself with people. Give them something to connect to, because AI can't do that. AI is boring.
Well, I mean, it is. It's just all results driven, and we'd like to hear about a journey. That's why when we watch a movie, it doesn't just say, here's this character and he died. There's the whole part in between that keeps us watching. So you have to share your journey with people. And there are many ways to do that. And you're right, you could document how you take the pictures. I remember we went to this super high-end gallery once, and a big part of the sales pitch was that the woman in the gallery would say, he uses a medium format camera. It's this one. They had the actual big wooden medium format camera in the gallery. They had pictures of him hiking out with it. They had stories about how he camped out in the wilderness and how it took him 2 weeks to get a shot, and how his printing process was unique, and all of these things to justify his prints being like $10,000 a piece. And he was in an area where he was selling them. And it was more than just his beautiful pictures.
It was never just the picture, but that's great news. If it was just the picture, AI would just make a better picture. It's you and the picture. Another way to set yourself apart is to connect locally to people. Like, if you try to connect on Instagram, then you're going to be going up against AI images constantly. I'm sure in the very near future, fine art, landscape, travel, that kind of thing is going to be largely AI generated, and it's going to be perfect. If you want people to like your Eiffel Tower picture, it's going to be impossible soon, because people are going to be seeing some fantastical, impossible pictures of the Eiffel Tower. But if you take a really good picture of your neighborhood, of your town, of the lighthouse up the street, whatever local landmarks there are, AI can't do that now and might not ever be able to do that. And people will also like to say, hey, this guy up the street, look at the picture that he took.
Yeah.
They will tell each other about that. And that is powerful. And AI cannot do that, again, because people can't connect to AI.
I see that on a local social media where I get emails and people will share their wildlife pictures or pictures of a local lighthouse, and they get so many comments and views, and it's like free publicity just to share the things locally that people like. So connect to your community. And if you're not a person that does landscapes, you could connect by taking events for your local government. I know local photographers who do the events for fundraisers or for little local award shows and things like that, and they make connections with everybody. So get in there and network and support your community because they will support you back.
I'll tell a story. Like during the pandemic, I felt a little frustrated because we were previously traveling the world and we had all these glamorous travel pictures, and that kind of got attention. We couldn't travel during the pandemic, so I started just doing local stuff. And I was just bringing the mail out to the mailbox one morning. I'm literally wearing slippers, and somebody in a car driving past, like, "Hurt!" They stopped. They rolled down the window and like, "Hey, you're that guy that took that picture of the neighborhood, like the circular rainbow one. That was amazing." And I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, somebody cared about my picture enough that they like recognized me and stopped. But that hadn't happened despite the fact that I'd been flying all around the world, really. Connecting locally is extremely powerful.
Another way you could differentiate yourself from AI and make yourself more valuable to your clients is to provide an experience. So I remember when people used to just take a digital picture and then hand over all the files. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Those days are gone.
And burn a CD.
So when you provide an experience, you want to make sure that they're getting a final product. And that could be a beautiful framed print. People don't know how to print pictures, so that's a good tool to have. And I'm also hearing from people who aren't even interested in photography that they can't keep up with all the digital stuff. I was just talking to moms about making photo books of their babies, and they said, I actually don't have any pictures because they all are in the cloud. I don't really know how to manage that. I have so many pictures on my phone, I don't even know where to find them or how to find them. It's like you have so many pictures, you have none because you can't curate them. So you can give people a curated experience by selling photo books, prints, videos, digital frames that show both stills and videos. You could be, if it's a business, not a family shoot, you could be a social media manager. They might know how to run a restaurant, but they might not know how to put stuff on their Instagram or their Facebook page. You could do that for them. I'm sure you're already good at that, and you can upsell them. You could be a branding specialist. They may be a lawyer that needs a headshot, but maybe they don't actually know how to dress themselves that well. One of our friends, Sam Shannon, gets in a whole team of people, and she has a very luxury level service of doing portraits where she provides styling, she provides hair, makeup. She sits down with her clients ahead of time and preps them on the whole process. She's making a lot more money by providing a lot more service. So you have to differentiate yourself from just the finished photo. You have to provide more.
And you might have to reset because you might want to think of yourself as a professional photographer. But it could be your actual job that will make you money. Photography is 30% of it.
It's always been that way, though.
It has always been that
And
way.
even the people that would take your school picture, they show up and press the shutter button, and it's the same set for every kid. But then they have to go home and go through all that stuff, and then they make their money by selling prints.
Yeah, well, and most of their job is like putting out little flyers and mailing things and doing the advertising and the pre-sale stuff. You're right, photography's always been that way, and it will continue to be that way. But broaden your horizons a little bit.
Yeah.
Make imaging part of a bigger role.
Right.
There's also many types of photography that aren't going to be soon displaced by AI. The real things, like photojournalism, not going anywhere. Real estate photography. Documentary photography, sports, shooting events. Like, you might consider specializing in these as opposed to portraiture or fashion or stock photography. I think these fields have more future success.
I hope so. It'd be sad if photojournalism went the way of AI, which it kind of has.
Well, it has, and you're right.
I fell for that Pope in the puffy coat photo. I was just like, oh, the Pope is cool as hell now.
And I've seen charities using AI-generated images to raise money for like starving people in some country.
Maybe that's actually better.
Yeah, instead of just showing pictures of, yeah.
But I'll also say, on the topic of being real and showing real things, I'm not sure if there's going to be a big wave of this, but I have seen a lot of people leaning towards film and more real-looking photos and more real-looking moments, and I don't really lean towards this highly stylized, glossy pictures anymore. And in the beginning of our career, I really liked all of like the HDR, glamour, highly processed stuff, but now that I've been inundated with photos, I want good, clean, simple, nice photography. And maybe AI will be able to copy that, but I think there's something about a genuine moment that shows through in a photo.
And I think portrait and wedding photographers should start offering film. It seems backwards, but you're going to attract those clients that will continue hiring people after AI has displaced so many jobs, because the people who like film are the people who believe in something real. Film is a physical witness to your event. It captures the light rays that bounce off of the people you love, and it will be real forever. And it is proof that it is not AI. And I think people are willing to invest in that when they hire a photographer.
Yeah, I think there's something cool about it's a flex to just have a real picture.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's a flex now for people to just not use filters on social media, because people have so many filters on, you don't even know what they look like anymore. And it's kind of a relief to me to just see real human skin at this point. So I can see how going back and providing a saddle might be a relief to some people.
And I think we see it in the success of instant film nowadays, even with teenagers.
Yeah, people love instant film, and a lot of teenagers are leaning towards film cameras. And when we pull out our Polaroid camera, people go nuts. They love Polaroids.
Yeah.
I think this one is counterintuitive. I think this is our last tip, but actually use AI in your process if it's helping your workflow.
We use it a lot nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to completely damn AI. You can use it to plan shoots. You can use it to make a concept for a shoot. You could do it to make props if you can't afford to buy them, but you could render a prop and add it in later. You know, there's all different ways that you could use it to streamline your workflow and have it be a benefit to you.
And instead of thinking of yourself as a photographer, you might think of yourself as an imaging expert, somebody who creates images. And often that will require you to go physically take a picture, some base to work with. But once you open up your mind to more broadly creating final results for clients, then your still photos, your videos might become a basis, something that you build upon with AI to achieve the client's desired results.
Yeah, I definitely understand how it rubs people kind of the wrong way, because at what point is it not photography anymore? But this has kind of been an age-old debate about Photoshop for a long time.
Right.
I mean...
Well, and I wrote a book on Photoshop because being a photographer also required you to develop these software skills.
Yeah.
And that continues to be true. And the new skill that you'll have to develop is AI imaging, because you will have to add that to your photos. That's going to make everyone a more successful photographer. Even though the bastard is taking your job, you have to kind of embrace this AI and work with him instead of against him.
This has just always been happening, though. But, yeah. The last tip, this is the actual last tip, is to just enjoy the process. If you don't want to sell your work and use AI, don't. That's your choice.
Yeah, nothing is stopping you from continuing to shoot pictures with your camera, from loving the process, taking pictures of your loved ones, whatever. The business might change, but for those of us who just do it because we love it, keep doing it.
Yeah, and I actually like creating AI images, but I don't feel it's the same thing as taking a picture. Like, I'll sit there.
It scratches a different itch.
It does, yes, exactly. And I'll sit there and I'll make a few and I'll be like, that was kind of cool. But it's not the same feeling as going out and enjoying a moment and then taking a little piece of it home with you.
In the comments, I'd like to hear how people are navigating this. Are you not worried about AI? Is it going to blow itself up? Or do you feel like you do need to change your strategy in order to navigate the future world of AI imaging?
Yeah, and I'm curious to hear your tips too. Maybe you have some experiences we don't, and you have some advice for people. You can leave that in the comments below. This is the Picture This Photography podcast. We have almost 200 episodes now.
Wow.
You can go to our playlist on YouTube to see all of them, or you can go wherever podcasting apps are available and go through the backlogs, because we've got quite a few. Thank you, Squarespace, for making this podcast possible. If you'd like your very own Squarespace website, portfolio, gallery, store, check it out. It's so easy to use. Tony and I have made a few of them. I sell prints on there and actually have sold a few. And it's just fun, but it's also incredibly useful. So go to squarespace.com/Chelsea and use the coupon code Chelsea to get 10% off. Thanks, Squarespace.
Thanks.